Yeah.
All right, we'll call to order the Public Works and Utility Committee at the Lisbon Village Hall, Wednesday, December 18th, 2024, 5:03 PM. Roll call, please.
Chair trustee Moonian,
Present.
Vice Chair trustee Beal. Present. Committee member Miller. Present. Committee member Everly,
Present.
committee member Plus,
Here.
engineer Neitzel,
Here.
DPW director Willikowski,
Here.
administrator Green,
Here.
utility accountant Mike Sargent is absent and excused, and clerk Kapazakich to record the minutes.
All right, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, 3 citizen comments. Nobody's present in person and no one's on Zoom. Last call. Moving on, approval of minutes from 11/20/2024 from the committee meeting. Any questions or requests for changes?
The only comment I would make is, in the roll call, member Miller may have spelled incorrectly
Say that again.
under roll call.
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said after that.
I'm sorry, this cold is driving me nuts. In the first line, Jane's name
Oh.
is spelled with
All right.
C. I think I have a read.
Thank you. I love autocorrect. I will make that change. Thank you.
I'll move for their approval as presented with that change.
Motion made by Mr. Everly,
I'll second it.
seconded by Mr. Plus. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next will be the departmental reports. Public Works Director Nick Willikowski.
Next, we got our pre-fill for salt, delivered. Highway guys, we did that repair on the truck box. You can see some of the pictures, what it used to look like, and then we, fabricated some metal, put it in there, welded and riveted together, and did patching on the side of the truck. And we did some rat's nest of electrical work on the truck. One picture. So getting trucks ready, kind of getting ready for winter. Their plow training, our plow routes, private bridge, we had 2 events. One was about 2 to 4 inches, depending where you were, kind of snow, and then one was just a little dusting, salt run, so. The winter events we've had so far, the parks that we've been working on the tree nursery. Kind of just fall cleanup, mulching weeds, blowing weeds, and then we marked the plow routes also. And then I worked on some office work, shot numbers for Green Meadow along Ainsworth for ditching complaints. Did a plow training, worked on interviews with Kathy for the highway labor operator position. And just did some shop work and. For the snow events that we had, and Ski Hill started making snow on Thanksgiving.
Boy, they were blowing it
Mhm.
and it was going. None of it was landing. I mean, it was all going across Murray Hill.
You normally monitor the ski hill, which I didn't know.
Yeah, so they'll text me or call me when they plan on making, they'll kind of give me what we're making tomorrow till Sunday, and then it's basically guaranteed that we'll check in and
Oh, really?
send a truck out to salt it, but we build them, so
Yeah.
we kind of just. It's basically the morning at 6, 7, I'll have the truck go out on the kind of weekend,
Okay,
go check it, salt it, and then around 5, 6 o'clock at night,
wow.
check it one more time. So we just keep track of it. And everything.
And they pay you.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
The village.
Yes, the village, not you. Mhm.
All right, any other questions for Nick? All right, moving on, utility district, we'll start with Don Neitzel.
Good evening. My reports in your packet. Starting with lift station flows for Janine and Plainview are about the same as last month. About 20 gallons a minute for Janine and 18 gallons a minute for Plainview. So those remained in check. Willow Springs also remained consistent with what we had seen the month before. Any questions on those? And the quote did go to Brabazon for that, for the pump, so thank you for getting me that.
Excellent.
Moving on then, Richmond School Lift Station, flows or at least run times are actually up this month. 62.5 hours for a total. The well reading for the month for the school was 61,700 gallons. And for October, it was 48,000, so they definitely did use more water for the month. I don't have an answer out of the buildings and grounds superintendent yet on what that might have been, but as I said, it's up by about 20,000, well, less than that, 14,000 gallons.
I'm guessing part of it would have been, they would have started basketball
Yep,
practice.
exactly.
That's it.
Yeah,
And they have games there and it's
Okay.
packed, yeah.
but, it's not all of it, but I'm sure that's part of it.
So yeah, like I say, flow was up there for the month, both on the station and the well. As of last month, Kathy did get a letter, after the meeting. She got it out to the buildings and grounds superintendent. He did respond saying they were looking to get quotes to disconnect whatever roof drains he felt were connected to the sanitary sewer. After that email, we had a meeting scheduled with him on December 13th. We went down, met with Adam, went through the school more. We had the plan done with the different additions all on one sheet now. So we started going through that with him. Ultimately, he had a plumber, Horner Plumbing scheduled for Monday of this week. So we were down there, went through it with them, identified a majority of the roof drains go somewhere other than the sanitary sewer. There's 5 of them that we don't know where they go, so we are gonna be dye testing those. We're working on getting that scheduled. Obviously, we'd like to do that when school's out of session because we'll be dragging a hose or something around for a water supply to put dye down a roof drain and run water down it. So we're working on getting that scheduled with them, and we're getting, we got names for quotes of private line locators for Adam at the school, so they can come in and help to do a little bit of locating to figure out what stuff we don't know where it goes, where it is going. So we got the names of 3 companies and we told them we'd work on just getting some hourly quotes
And
from them.
Mike is out of Sussex, so it's American Leak Detection.
Okay,
He's,
He'll-
he's in Sussex.
he'll
and
do line
do
locating
private
besides
line
leak.
locating.
Okay. Can you get me his contact info?
Mhm.
Okay,
I know
Thank you.
I asked this question before, but I can't remember anything lately more than 5 minutes. Are we keeping and charging your time and all this, and that's getting billed directly to Richmond and not cost sharing?
That's a question I
Yeah.
just had too. I was thinking, why would the fire department have to pay that? If it's in the building?
That's what I don't think it should be the 60-40
Mhm.
split. I know we had this conversation before, but this stuff is all exclusively Richmond's
Issue.
issues. When we go down, if and when we have to do something down at the station, that's should be the same thing. That
Exactly.
should be paid for by them, but
that's, would be a question for Mike. I mean,
I
I
know.
believe he has been, we invoice the village, obviously, but then Mike takes it and re-invoices.
I thought I remembered that it gets billed all to, like, the work you're doing at the school. I thought I remembered that. it gets-
because it's not,
I think so.
this is not insignificant. I mean, when you start adding this up, we've been doing this for God knows how long, but
Mhm.
okay.
I agree. I think it should be checked into, and I personally agree with you. As you were talking, I thought, why would we be paying part of that?
I can check with Mike tomorrow and have him send in, I can get an email out after I hear from him.
I
Okay.
guess I would like to know if it's happened in the past a little bit. Just to see.
I think it has, but yeah, I'll check with him, make sure historically that's what's happened and that's what he's doing now.
I mean, we're gonna get into this later when we talk about putting this stuff in the pump station for smell. That you could argue either way. But it's probably gonna end up being split 60-40 for that part of it, but it's. I know this stuff is exclusively Richmond's and Richmond should be paying for this directly.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, there's gotta be a cooperative balance to some degree because Richmond could say it's our building, we're not letting you accompany us. There is a benefit to the sanitary as a whole that our representative is present. I mean, yes, we could legally move into some actions and force the hand, but I think a joint venture is somewhat is our responsibility to make this resolved. I don't think all the problems are just Richmond's problems. I don't know that at this point.
in the school it is.
Once we find out it's in the school,
Yeah.
sure, it is their problem, but if we don't find out it's not in the school.
I mean, Richmond's gonna have some significant. Expenses when they start busting up floors to reroute these roof drains and that, I mean, that's compared to what. Your charges are, but
That's
I
what-
just wanna, if somebody raises the issue, I wanna be able to
Mhm.
address it and tell them, yeah, this is going to there and this is going to there.
And that's the concern Adam raised during the last meeting we had with him was that. If we do find a roof drains hooked to the sanitary sewer. It's gonna take a little bit for them to disconnect it just because school's in service and then also depending on how the cost comes in to do something like that, but. He had just mentioned that and I think it's kind of an obvious,
Yeah, you start busting up
Issue
school
with
floors
the-
for crying out, you just spent 10 grand.
right?
And he has to work within his budget constraints too, so
Sure.
we actually, we.
But
need to
we-
be able to
It's
recognize
not that this should be a surprise, but school boards don't understand plumbing, so let's put it that way. Okay,
Do we need to have the school sign a reimbursement form of some kind, maybe to give them some type of heads up?
I believe there's already an agreement in place.
I think that.
Yeah,
everything's-
that,
and I
that breaks
think-
out the split and what, what they're responsible for. And
Well, I mean, to Dan's point though, this is a little more specific than the current agreement because
Mhm.
We're talking about 100%.
we're talking about moving from a split to a full born percentage on them.
I'm not sure if there's language in that agreement, though, if there's items that's specific to the school that.
I think that there is, I think there are things in
Let
the
me check what-
existing
yeah.
agreement that.
You know,
address
I mean, if they don't want you there and they're gonna bear the cost of you being there, whatever,
Right.
I mean, they're gonna have a bill, for instance, of 6 times 9 is of $5,400 for this stuff that we're gonna be putting in down there. That's not, and then, to me, that's not insignificant cost, but they should be aware it's coming. When that tanker pulls
Well-
up to that tank,
And they were aware of it before because the last time this was done was 2018, so
Yeah,
it was
okay.
getting billed prior to that.
but he wasn't there,
Adam wasn't
yeah,
there.
okay.
So yeah, I'll follow up with Mike on that and then I'll send something out to everybody. Any other questions on Richmond School Lift Station? Then the fire station, the water usage for the month, for November was 9,300 gallons, up quite a bit from October. So again, I'm not sure if something,
Oh, yeah,
There's full-time staff now.
okay,
there's 5 people there all the time.
all right, so that's something I guess we'll just watch to see if that's the new amount for the month that we're on. Casey's well, for November, 17,255. It was down a little bit from October, so that looked good.
God, that's a lot of water for that place. But whatever, they're paying it.
And then just the last thing I mentioned with the GIS, we began adding a water main for Business Park East, even though right now it's operated by Sussex. We got that included on there and then, the water service, the lateral information, we're dropping that on for Business Park East as well. Any questions?
What is that gonna cost?
It's a couple hours here and there, so it's more of a maintenance thing we're just doing, so it. Basically for what we bill every month, it's included in that.
Because I know that the TIF district, Kathy in past, because it's the TIF district,
Could be a tip
that
expense.
the TIF pays for it, not the residents in the district.
That's a good point. If
I don't know how.
you want me to label that on the invoice, it's,
Break it out separately,
Yes,
and I'll
please.
list it's for the TID.
Yeah,
Okay.
she may already do that, I don't know if you have hours designated for that.
Let me look back at the packet just to make sure, and I can even rework them and send them back to you.
That's a great point, Lynn.
yeah,
I mean, it's not $1,000,000, but it's every penny counts.
exactly. And it's not fair to the people in the district that they're paying for the park.
Right.
Business park. Okay. Great. Good job. Thank you.
All right, Mike Sargent's not present, so he did provide some correspondence inside of our packets. I'll just read it. This is for November through December. The Land Interceptor I charge for November was 99,800 compared to 576,000 in September. Working with village staff to transition accounting into the village. Believe we're still on track to get the accounting and billing through Village Hall as of the beginning of the new year.
As of January 1, you said?
Yeah, I think it's a little after that, if I remember.
That sounds right.
Remember when bills go out. Not,
Beginning of
it's not the,
beginning of January. Just a quick question, because I had missed some months. The Land and Interceptor, why is there a difference between the 998 and the 576, which is a horrendous difference? Why?
I think that was.
The readings went down, so an issue was found or water table went down. I mean, whatever was causing the high leak, I mean, it's, like I say, it's either,
Wow. Is that 576 then? It's way off. Curious, thank you.
but I was wondering the same thing when I seen it, but I guess that's.
As
the only
long as that
explanation I
9
got.
isn't a typo, it's supposed to be a $sign. That's the first thing I thought when I saw those two numbers,
Yeah.
because they are extremely different.
Yeah,
It just, I'm amazed at that. Obviously, I think something's wrong. I'm not saying which way it should be. I have no idea.
I don't think the
Hmm?
I don't think the flow billing is on there for Landon. On the summary sheet.
I can't read this print, I'm
No.
sorry, I'm too old.
Me too. I need to make fine glass.
And if
My-
I try to blow it up on a big sheet, it looks worse.
I know, but my arms aren't long enough.
My eyes aren't good enough to see this little stuff.
Yeah, it's not on there, so. Anything further for department reports? What's that?
It's on here, the second set of numbers, the infiltration land and interceptor. August was 622. 9/1 was 576, and then it went down to 173 in October, and then November 99 and 88. Yeah. It's like Hamilton, Silver Spring went from 430 to 236 to 65. Templeton Flow went, Hamilton Fine Art Flow 105 to 48 to 6,800. I won't read them all together on there.
Oh, I see where it's a whole number for Land and Interceptor. Well, if anything, there was a bigger drop from March to April. It went from 171 up to 806. Creeped as high as 862 in June.
Aren't these Sussex's or Landon's meters?
They, yeah,
Well,
they're responsible for them.
right.
Sussex maintains them. No, to check them weekly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same
Is it
thing.
part of your SCADA system? I'm assuming it's on SCADA.
That is not, I don't think it is. It's. They physically go out there and read them. Could be, I don't know, I don't go on that side, so
Gotcha.
I like the clean water.
And then doing, my other question, and I should have asked Mike this a while ago, are these water meter flows? Or how are they getting these flows for each of those individual buildings?
Casey's Market's got, like Casey's is coming off the well.
That's different than meter reading.
If you look at the total flow. September is 3562 and November is 3010, so the comparison of flow is not comparison to. I'm guessing their dollar amounts. It's not apples to apples.
Yeah, cause the one is the flow and the total number is infiltration. If you look at the 576 number, it's 576.00. On Mike's sheet, it's 576,000. So I guess I don't know how to.
I think those readings are in thousands, the bottom line, it's thousands of gallons.
Right.
That part I understand. I just wasn't sure if these were the body of it. When they're talking about all those individual buildings, if that's a water meter reading or if that's somebody is calculating the sewer flows into that. I can't imagine that you read water meters monthly for that report.
We get them, I get them from Sussex monthly.
And that's big, well,
Well, but for the individual, I understand the lift stations, but these are individual
Users.
buildings.
Yeah, so like Richmond School, they read that monthly. Fire department, they read monthly. Casey's.
Okay.
And looking at the middle portion of Mike's spreadsheet here, that where the bottom it says infiltration, land and interceptor. I mean, just looking at Richmond School, that flowed at 61.7, that's there for November, that matches the well reading.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that's what they're pulling it off of.
The problem we have is we don't know if they're coming off of well readings, we don't know how accurate those wells are, and I don't know, there's just so many variables out there, especially when you get to things like Willow Springs.
All right, any more for questions or follow-up for utility? Correspondence. There's a staff memo for expedited approval for utility-related repairs. The village board approved the spending of 10 grand. I put a little caveat on it. It has to be done with one trustee present and in concurrence with the spending, just so it.
Will that, do you cover that then?
Yeah, so
Is your presence?
the
okay, this-
current makeup of the committee, it'd either be Linda or I.
Okay, so we.
Voting in
we have-
concurrence
okay,
with
well,
at
okay,
least
that's
two of
fine.
you.
I think that's a good one, and then
Yeah.
is that a one-time? I don't wanna get into detail, but is that a one-time thing if we had two $8,000 ones for some weird reason in a month?
For the same thing?
No,
Well,
for two
different
different
stations
things,
or
Oh.
something.
an apple and a
It's
banana.
up to, it's individual, it's up to, it's not.
Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
I think this makes life a lot easier.
And this is completely separate than the emergencies
Yeah.
that need to be done.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so I guess I wanted to make sure I'm understanding. So this is stuff that would come to the committee that is urgent, that wouldn't have time to make a village board meeting. but does this give Sussex the time frame that they need to make those repairs? Or you're saying that they're still able to make an emergency repair without that?
if there was a repair that needed to keep the system running, there's absolutely no reason it has to come for approval to the board.
Mhm.
Now, I mean, for instance, if we're dealing with a backup pump. Say that it came in at the end of last month. We already passed the board meeting for the month, and then it would come, say, tonight. Now we would have to wait till January 8th
2 months.
Mhm.
to get to
Yeah.
the board to then approve, to then come back for us the next month for notification, but also get to them. So it's essentially cutting out at least 3 to 5 weeks of the
Mhm.
Gotcha.
process.
But it'll eventually get to the board, one way or the other. 'cause-
In a correspondence.
Yeah,
Oh, sure.
right.
Yeah.
Cause technically the board still has to.
And that's why,
Sign off on
well, and that's my thinking when I made the motion was that when there's a board member sitting on, there's 2 right now, but if one of them is
Yeah.
in agreement with the motion in the majority, that is,
Yeah.
it's what the board would see anyways.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the board's still gotta sign off every dollar, which is what we need.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for doing this. I think that was a great idea.
Some other correspondence that I've had recently, yes, there is a change in garbage service coming up on January 1st. What's that?
Nope, it's just correspondence.
Yep. So then, you would be seeing new recycling bins coming to your property.
Haven't seen it.
There was some confusion about the days, so please go with the newest map and the day that's printed on your insert in your recycling receptacle.
A lot of people commented to me, they didn't know there was a brochure in the garbage can. Well, when you get something,
Look.
wouldn't one
Yeah.
normally open it up and see, but whatever.
Mhm.
I mean, it was windy, they could have opened up.
There's a lot of garbage, recycled
Surprised that there's
things. that
still a
are-
lot laying out on the.
Yeah.
Me too.
People, must have been a lot of people on vacation or something, because there were a lot of them, I picked up 4 or 5 of them, and put them where they are. Mine's in the back of my truck to drop off to Nick, so.
What, you don't recycle,
What?
everything just goes.
No, I already have a blue one, which is bigger, so I'm gonna keep using the blue one, and I'm turning the new green, yellow, whatever we call it, back to Public Works, because we got people calling, according to what Kathy told me, asking for extra ones. So fine, we paid for them one way or the other, so somebody might as well use the thing. I don't need 2 recycling
We're
bins for the
collecting.
2 of us.
Where we,
By the salt shed.
we're collecting them? Okay,
And they're available for residents to drop off or pick up at the DPW by the salt shed. Free.
is that good?
I saw something that-
Okay.
They'll have salt for the- they'll stay on the shop.
Yep.
Okay.
So they're going.
The what
What?
there?
We'll
That's
get
what I
through
was
this
told.
whole garbage thing.
Call Nick. He loves, he'll get you hooked up. All right, that, any other correspondence from staff or committee?
With regard to the garbage schedule, be cognizant of holiday schedules for the first of the year.
I have a quick question, that when my husband read that piece of paper that was in the guy, in the can, he had said, what, we can't have an extra bag of garbage out plus the can, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you can.
Because he noticed
It
something
ha-
on
I think
there.
it has to be in the can, but you can
Yes.
have an extra can. You can have as many
Okay.
cans.
You
You
can
can
have
have
5.
up to
Yeah.
5
5.
recycle, up to 5 garbage.
Okay,
Cause
gotcha.
because they have to grab them physically, and so if
Yes.
they break the bag open or
Yes,
something,
I understand.
that's
Perfect.
Cause like, we separate ours on the driveway.
Or the 80-gallon
Yeah.
black plastic bag that's got 16 bricks of concrete in it.
Well, I've talked to my guys who I know well over the years, and they've got stories that'll curl
yeah.
your hair when they
Yeah.
find.
Yeah, imagine.
So yeah, obviously, if you're a new Wednesday person, your service is gonna be Thursday for the first week, but then it'll be on the 8th for next week.
Mhm.
By the end of January, things will calm down. There's enough stuff on Facebook that just,
All right, any other correspondence? New business discussion and necessary action regarding quotes for 2025 sewer televising. Don provided a most recent Expeditors quotation.
So what I handed out tonight to you, is the top one, if you unclip it. There's a first one on top's paper clipped together. There's 3 proposals there. One from the Expeditors, one from Vision Sewer, and one from Great Lakes. I did mark up on them myself just to kind of summarize what the cost is for each. Vision Sewers, I added up on the second page. You went with option 1 or option 2. In the end, Expeditors are really, they come across as the cheapest at $10,700. If you remember, this is for Business Park East. To do the mainline sewer and then do the laterals up to the right of way, because basically everyone's connected now with the exception of Forrester, but his lateral is in his property, so.
So this is another one that's built back to the, to leads.
Could go to the TIF district,
Yeah.
correct?
So you didn't televise it the first time around? Or you didn't do anything after it was installed?
We televised it when the main line was put in.
I don't know,
Almost
can you
hooked up to
still
it.
send it to TIF if it's a maintenance thing?
I get shit on the tip.
I don't know the answer. to that.
Could you
I'd have
repeat
to
that? I'm
check.
sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can bill a TIF district for a regular maintenance. I could
Only
get it
capital costs.
if it was
Yeah.
the first time around. I guess that I understand would
Yeah,
be
the-
going to the,
The original televising would have been part of the project
I think
when
this
the
would
sewer
go
was
regular
installed.
maintenance.
TIF can only absorb capital costs.
But Kathy, or Linda, this would be, when we were on a sanitary district, we televised every year. So this is the same, this is annual
Oh, I know,
televising.
but the people, the district people pay for their own. I just have a hard time paying for the TIF district.
Oh, but you think about it as you're paying for televising on somebody else's street in your subdivision.
Oh, absolutely, I agree, but they're in the district and they pay and we all pay for it.
But this is, they're now customers of the
Yeah.
utility.
I know what you're saying. I
They're
don't
not getting
agree.
deferred on their costs though.
Yeah.
They're still paying their.
Right.
They still pay taxes. I mean, there's churches that are on sanitary sewer and they don't pay.
I think then if the town should, the village should pay for it instead of, for this, the TIF, rather than the people online that are paying their $165 every 3 months for their sewer.
I think you have to change your mindset to their customers. Everybody's a
I
customer now.
understand that, I understand
And
that.
not look at, so the capital cost was part of that TIF and the putting in the infrastructure, that is a TIF cost and that is specific to a capital expenditure. This is a regular operations and maintenance
I
that
understand.
every customer has to pay for.
I understand what you're saying. I do not agree with it and I do not agree with it, period. And I just will not. If I had a vote, I have one vote, that's my vote. They should pay for it, they're a TIF. Or
They
somehow.
are paying for it in their rates.
No. I disagree. Okay, all I'm saying is I don't agree with it.
Eventually, the TIF will be closed in a few
Mhm.
years and there's no TIF there to charge to. So it goes away. Once the income and the capital expenditures are meet, it's gone. It's
I
poof.
understand.
Is there, Don, is there a preferred vendor? I've heard of Visu Sewer. I haven't heard of the other two, but I mean,
Expeditors they've been the cheapest on our televising,
They've done
probably
before.
since I've been here, since which is 2019.
okay.
It's not
Then
surprising.
what we've seen is after they do it, if they come across any issues. Vision Sewer's done the majority of the repairs then that we've done after that.
Okay,
But in terms of the actual televising, yeah, the Expeditors, they've been
Good.
relatively the cheapest all the time.
cheap but good.
Yeah, yep.
They've been around for quite a while.
Definitely, okay.
You know, and if we want a little bit of extra something here or there, they don't really qualm over
Okay.
doing it without coming back for anything. So
So we need a motion. Is this an action item?
It is an action item. Just some clarification. So the option 1 on page 1 for Visu Sewer has, let's just call it $8,000 cost. So where is the $4,000 or $4,500 that is added to it on page 2?
So that you gotta look at option one, and then you gotta go to the bottom for the lateral televising price.
Mhm.
So you gotta add the lateral televising to either option.
Okay, so that, the lateral is not just specific to option two.
Correct. So that's why I added the two different ones on the second page for a total. We tried to explain to each one of the firms on how to put it together, and each one showed up a little bit different, even though they called numerous times, but, with the expediters, they included a light cleaning and then televising of the main and the laterals, so their total price is the 10,700. Vision Sewer, they had option one for light cleaning and televising for 8,025, and then you add the 5,1115 for the laterals. And that's where theirs for option one came to 12,427.
I think you have.
Actually, I got it backwards.
Backwards.
Yeah,
So on page two, it should be option two first and then option one.
correct. Yep, I just caught that when you said it.
I mean, in Visu Sewer, the cleaning is only costing $700. 680.
For Vision Sewer,
Yeah,
yeah, it's just the cost difference between option one and option two. So about 20 cents more a foot.
One's just pushing the camera through and one's putting a hose through there and then the camera, so they gotta go through there twice.
The one thing with the expediters, I'll mention, they have in their quote, we need to provide water, which I'm thinking any one of these firms are gonna ask for that, and then they're asking for a dump site if they would have any debris in their truck, which it's not gonna be much with it being a newer sewer.
Where do they normally go? Does Sussex have a place they don't?
No. Not for waste like that.
They have to take it to Waukesha?
No, I think they take it to Delaware myself, but I'm not positive on that.
Yeah, Delphille's probably closer. Okay, whatever it
Vision
is,
Sewer
what it
goes
is.
to MMSD.
If it's anything, it's usually gravel.
Yeah.
so
Probably 5 yards of that much.
Depending on what it is.
Yeah, I don't think you want to.
No,
What's it?
you don't wanna open that can of
It's
worms.
gonna be,
Waste, but
Yes,
there'll be
waste.
gravel mixed in, and
yeah, you don't want that unless you have an actual dumpster that you can decant the wastewater from it. Yeah,
Yeah, you don't wanna touch that.
who put
I
that,
mean, if it's primarily gravel, regardless of where they take it, whether it's Delafield or Waukesha, or
Yeah.
they're not gonna dump it in the head end anyway, they're gonna dump it at the end, cause they're not gonna run gravel through their pumps. And it's not that much. I doubt if it's 5 yards.
so. I'm just thinking, there's obviously gonna be a dumping fee for that.
they will have included that in their prices. They all know, well, except if,
No, I'm thinking the expediters didn't, because it's saying that we're responsible for
Mhm.
a dump site.
right?
So we're gonna be responsible for trucking and
Water,
dumping fee and water, line and water.
but you gotta get a truck out there and that's gonna cost money. And I'm a little confused where it says this price does not include cleaning laterals from sewer main, but up on top.
It says that they'll televise the sewer laterals. I don't think they really have a mechanism to go up from this. When they televise the sewer mains, they're gonna be going up the lateral from the sewer main with their camera. So they really don't have a mechanism to be able to go up and clean it from the main as well, so they'd have to come from the building.
The cleaning of the lateral is the responsibility of the property owner anyway, all the way out to the main. We're just televising it.
You're right.
So their camera's gonna go down the main, and off the main, it's gonna shoot up and go up their laterals and televise it right away. Or it's connected to the private portion.
So. Visu Sewer is responsible for dump site and debris.
Well, it says under Visu Sewer, if needed, removal of obstruction or
deposits, heavy cleaning with Vector, that will be quoted separately. I don't know if that removal is quoted separately.
That was the one thing with Vicious Sewer and. Well, not so much Great Lakes, they think they had everything covered, but Vicious Sewer, there's a lot, kind of a lot of T and M rate and. Additional cost for this or that in their quote.
So
The one thing with the expediters, I would say if we wanted to make a recommendation with them before I would tell them it's. Approved, I'd just tell them we can't take the sanitary waste and. If they're willing to do that for their cost.
I think that if we could become responsible for it, and then what, if there's an additional charge? Then I think we need to come back and know what that is, but
yeah,
just that we don't want to be responsible for.
yeah, I mean, because. To a point, the expeditors is probably the leading pole right now, but. Those unknown costs could easily make it number two.
Well, I mean, the first expeditors requires we provide the dump site. Vision Sewer requires that we provide the dump site. If it doesn't specifically say, unless I missed it. For Great Lakes that we provide the dump site.
Where did you see dump site for?
On the second page of Vision Sewers, quote up on top. That,
Yep, dump site for captured debris.
Yeah, so they got the same things as expeditors, the hydrant and a water and a dump site.
all these guys always require the. We provide water.
Great Lakes doesn't appear to have any of that.
Is captured debris and visitor sewer equivalent to sanitary sewer debris and expeditors? Okay.
And the one thing they seen on Great Lakes too is that they're saying that theirs is an estimate and that will be invoiced to actual quantities once they're done.
It's been.
Personally, I think if we can go back and just say, even if you want to go to all three. Do you?
I mean,
do-
has. Have we contracted with expeditors in the sanitary before?
So it's usually
Televised.
because they're usually the cheapest.
Right, but hasn't some of these questions been hammered out with them before?
Last year, I don't think we chose to tell, I don't think we chose to do the light cleaning on last year's televising.
Dan, do you guys do hydrant permits?
Yeah. But we usually like, it all depends the time of year, because we usually fill it right at our wastewater plant. And if needed, yes, we do hydrant permits. It's and it's relative to our, I say that our water is like $5 for 1,000 gallons, so it's nothing crazy.
I'm just thinking that perhaps there could be an arrangement made with Sussex that the village could pull a hydrant permit on behalf of whichever contractor. And then we would be able to provide the water through the village of Sussex. And then put the onus on whatever debris is on the contractor and whatever that cost me. Because we don't want to deal with that waste at all.
But that's why we didn't have that last year. We didn't televise, so there's no need for a dump
I
site.
mean,
or
the
water.
sanitary had to have cleaned at some point, or did they never clean?
They've been cleaned.
Yeah, so what did,
Well, then it was brand new and there wasn't any sanitary waste involved in
yeah, I'm not talking this
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 particular
project
area.
area, but
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure the sanitary's cleaned other mains.
But I think it's been a few years since we've done that. I don't recall us
What'd they
having
do
this
with the
issue
waste then?
before.
I don't remember.
Huh?
So when we get charged for that and they have to take that debris to Jones Island.
Jones Island, yeah, I'm gonna say.
So, I mean, you're paying for trucking costs at that point, but this should be so minor. I think this is gonna be a minor amount of debris that they probably could handle on their own at some point.
Well, you figured it, that's all they do is televising, so they gotta have a truckload going somewhere at some point, you know, so this is gonna be a small amount added to whatever.
Unless there's some catastrophic thing happening that we weren't aware of, but I think it should be.
It's a couple of yards worth of stuff.
If that.
Yeah.
I like your idea of go back to them and say. The expediters.
Table until next month.
Yeah, we
I
can,
mean, there's no rush. It's not being done till probably late spring or.
Yeah.
Why don't you do that, and then we can revisit it next month, and there's no question. Table that.
I guess what, since, yeah, we're not, we'll just put that to the unfinished business next. All right, 8A, unfinished business. Discussion necessary action to approve a policy for citizen request related to speed, street sign, and traffic control issues and recommendation of village board of same.
Right, so in your packets, there is a draft traffic signage installation policy. This was taken from the, city of Wauwatosa, policy. Do you like the format? Do you want it set up that way? Would you prefer to see it a different way? And based on this, then we'll do the one for, speed studies as well.
Where did you copy this from? Did you get this from someone or you drew it up yourself?
The format was based off of Wauwatosa's, but all of the information in it was from our November, October, and I think even September discussions.
Okay, thank you.
So this will actually be passed by the board, the way it's set up right now.
This committee will approve it first, then it'll go to the board for approval to become the official policy.
And does the village have any other policies similar that?
Yes.
So I understand you're trying to, I would assume you're trying to create a format that everything moving forward would
Yep.
have the same.
So the setup of it is how our complaint and nuisance reporting is. Where, once the policy does get passed, we'll just take item 4, policy. That will go on the reporting form with the policy on the back.
Gotcha.
This is exactly how our complaint form is right now. But I wanted feedback from the committee before we put everything into final form and before I spend a whole bunch of hours doing the other one.
Okay, I'm fine with it. I think it's good, it's readable and.
I would have had them both done, but this got
Yeah.
asked of me last week, so.
I think this is what we had talked about, and this is fine with me. And then we'll get the other one done and maybe deal with both of them at the same time at the village board level.
Mhm.
As long as we can get them done before April. So we have to
Oh, they'll be back here
reinvent the
next week.
wheel.
One of the questions I had was the speed. Like speed request.
Yes,
This one, the policy only deals with signage.
correct. I'll do one just like that for speed based on discussion. But instead of doing 2 of them that you guys may or may not like, I figured I would just do one and get some feedback first.
So you're expecting 2 separate policies?
Correct.
Okay.
And then we put that appeals process in there as well, if they're not happy with the
Yep, that's
It's
There's
directors.
7.
If
It's
they're
on
not,
number 7 on the second
yep,
page.
if they're not happy with the director's decision.
Yep.
They have to describe why. They have to go against the MUTCD guidance. And then the public works will hear it at that point.
Mark, do they have something similar in the village or the cities or?
Not necessarily.
What we're trying to do is we had a onslaught of these things in the last year. Because this subdivision heard that this subdivision was doing it, And so all of a sudden we had 5 subdivisions doing it. We were spending an awful lot of time. And so was the sheriff's department. We had the lieutenant here, so we tried to come up with. Correct me if I'm wrong, with a policy for both speed issues and for traffic signage. So it's consistent from one to the other. It would be on the website. Somebody or some group wants to do one of these things. Here's the procedure. Here's what you do. This is how it's gonna be handled. Here's gonna handle, and we're trying to keep it from having to come to this committee all the time. Most of it would be handled by DPW.
Okay.
Or the sheriff's department.
And trying to use the manual of uniform traffic
Control.
control devices as our guiding document rather than emotions.
Yeah, Nick, if you could just add to your monthly report, a section for citizen requests, and then if there's nothing, just put it on there. Obviously, I'll see it if there is one, but the rest of the committee won't see it if there is one. And then,
Yeah, I assume if we can get this done, we could do. The office could do something in the spring newsletter to address both of these, and then we could say that people have been. Informed of these 2 things.
all right,
Do you want us to take action on this or do you want to bring the other one back?
So I'll bring the other
Yeah.
one back,
so,
unless you want to take action on this particular one, and we'll just send this to the board ahead of the other. Completely up to the.
I'd
committee.
rather do both of them at the same time to the board, so they. Could see that we got an apple and a banana and
do we have any pending requests that need to be handled like this? No,
it's not summer.
all right, we can just put that to unfinished business next meeting with the expectation of a speed enforcement policy.
I can do that. Thank you.
The next one is discussion necessary action regarding LW Allen and We Energy's quotes for installation of a flow meter at Lisbon Business Park East.
So ultimately, I'm gonna ask you to table this. We Energies have been trying to reach out to Tarsha Benford, who had been our contact for Business Park East when we did that at We. No response. I had worked with 2 of their engineers in the past. I reached out to both of them. Finally got back to me. I got the service application and the new contact to Cynthia Armstead that'll be working with for this. We looked at a map with them. There is a transformer sitting just to the east of the lift station location, right where the first parcel is on Augusta Parkway. So there is a electric right there. So we're gonna get the service application done. That should be in tomorrow morning, and then I will have a quote for the January meeting. I'll bring back LW Allen's quote. I got Next Electric's quote, and I'll have Wee's, so
And this would be a capital expense.
correct. Correct.
Thank you for asking.
I was.
'Cause if you
just
didn't-
trying to Usurp you. See, that's my Christmas present to you, Linda.
Okay.
All right, anyone have any
Trying to save your
direction
breath.
before we
I have a
table it?
question.
Yep.
I could.
Yeah.
So is there any reason why we would need to go through and do winter construction on this? Cause I know they're kicker.
We're gonna
with the
stay away from
operations.
that.
So there, this will be constructed in
Yeah.
the spring.
Cause I don't think the TID's being closed out for a couple of years yet anyway, so we got plenty of time.
And the main thing is just to let, Queen Landing and Sussex know we're in the process of getting it done. So there's no reason.
Now
for
that our I
construction.
magically has disappeared.
No need
uh,
for it.
Yeah,
Evaporate.
All right.
Do you want
Uh,
this coming back next month or?
Yes, yep.
C, discussion and necessary action regarding proposal from Martell Water Treatment to provide chemical addition to Richmond School Lift Station. Don?
So in that same packet of information I passed out tonight with the sewer quotes, the next one in that packet is a quote from Martell. That's the same, and this is for Richmond School Lift Station to add a chemical to combat the odor. Yep. Martell provided it back in 2018 was the last time that Mike Sargent could find record of it. So I reached out to them. They still carry the product. They told me it worked well when they did use it in the past. So they provided a quote. There is a 275 gallon tote sitting at the lift station. And then upon opening up a US filter control panel, I found a pump in there that was probably used last in 2018. So the front page is the cost of the chemical, $5.99 a gallon. And the second page would be as if we had to replace that pump. And talking to Martell and sending him a picture and everything of what we had there in that panel, he said he felt that that pump was probably good yet and that he'd just have to replace the tubing. So we could probably eliminate the cost of the pump and just his labor for the install. And
So where is that in here? Cause I don't
you're looking
see.
at that. Looks like this,
How
Joe.
does
You're
that
looking at the
compare
MSD
to
sheet.
What was provided to put in the packets?
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Is
Okay.
the lesser quantity, this is based on the 2018 amounts then, the first one, and this is
This
what?
was just to
you
fill
actually-
it.
Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. I
This
didn't
was
see
to
it.
fill the tote in that, his first
This-
one was a whole year's worth
Yeah.
or anticipated.
Oh,
Cause we'd want to do
Got
this. My only question is, have we received a directive, for want of a better term, from the village of Sussex telling us we have to do this?
I got a complaint from the village engineer for Sussex that she's getting complaints from residents in that subdivision, new subdivision.
Okay,
And she had said you guys used to add chemical.
yeah.
And that's where this started.
The only reason, and I understand, because from day one, they've been doing this. They used a different chemical since that pump station was put in. The next time you talk to Judy, could you ask her to send a letter to the village of Lisbon telling us to do this, so we've got things covered? In case somebody asks us, why are we spending $10,000 for this? So we've got it and we can put it in the file. The problem is the sewage sits in the line so long, by the time it gets to Sussex, it's really bad. This has been going on for 15, how that pump station is. We drove some people out of a business in the business park because they couldn't stand being in their building. It was so bad. So now we're building, Sussex is building a new subdivision down to Redford Hills with large houses.
Sure.
When people move into a $900,000 house, they wonder why their house stinks, and it's really bad, I'm sure. But if we had a letter from Sussex telling us we have to do it, then we can put it in the file. If somebody says, why are you spending $10,000? Here's the reason why. And according to the agreement, Sussex, I know, has the right to require us to do that. It would close the whole loop.
and
And we
you
got
can-
our butt
You
covered.
can give her my contact information regarding the correspondence.
Do you think this has to be done every year though, compared, we haven't done it since 18?
It's continuous.
I think there's been complaint, I mean, from what I've heard, there's been odors, but I think with the subdivision now, you just got more people
Just
there.
been-
And
Yeah.
even when they made the connection to that manhole,
Oh, it was
The-
bad. There was a sheet metal place in that first building and the manhole was outside there. And they couldn't even, you couldn't even go, it was bad.
Is
But-
this a charge that's charged to Richmond School and the fire station?
This is a split right now,
Okay.
60-40,
Gotcha.
because it's all of our Richmond stuff and the firehouse
Yep.
stuff comes in the same pot.
Yep.
So
Gotcha.
until we change that agreement based upon flows in the new fire situation.
Yep.
It's 60-40.
Yeah, okay.
So,
but to clarify what you asked. Yeah, the one I put in your packet, I figured it out for what it would be a year.
Yeah.
And then what I passed out tonight, I just had the cost of what it would take to fill a tote.
so how long does this run for?
Continuous.
I mean, it's,
When the pump
It-
turns on, this other pump turns on
so-
and it dribbles it into it before it takes off for Sussex.
so when I put the stuff in your packet, Martell had told me from what they had remembered, they thought it used about 4 gallons per day. And Mike had drummed up a couple invoices from 2018. I took a look at them between the fill dates, looked to me probably closer to 3 gallons per day, so it'll get you a little bit
And a
longer.
lot less in the summer, obviously, because school isn't there. But the flow now we have coming from the fire station is significantly higher, so. I think $10,000 is what this is gonna be for the first year, and we'll see where things go from there. Eventually, before we all die, we're gonna have a sewer here and this is all gonna go away. Cause we won't have a pump station and stagnant sewage.
So who maintains it and who makes sure that the pump feed is working correctly? Did Mike know who that was?
The way it was set up last time, the way the invoices looked to me, it looked like it was the engineer. So the engineer was invoiced for the chemical and then the engineer turned around and
Oh. Wonder if that'd be something we could talk to. Make it- It really is just a matter of, once everything's there, just making sure your pump is
your
wrong.
pump's wrong, man.
It's not like it's once a week or once every couple of weeks or once a month kind of thing.
The only thing that seems, if you're done, Jake, is if they've only got a 275 gallon tank at the pump station, then they're gonna have to make 4 trips there to do this. So we're gonna have to, I would say the amount that we would approve would be in the neighborhood of $10,000. Because there's gonna be 4 trips and they're gonna charge us 4 times to come over, because they can't dump 1,460 gallons into a 275 gallon tank. Somebody's gonna, as you said, Jane, monitor that thing, that when it's out, they need to make a phone call and get these guys to come and do it.
Who determines that 4 gallons is the appropriate added?
That's what they had remembered. And then based on the invoices Mike had found, it looked like they were coming every 3 months, as Joe had just mentioned. They're showing up about every 3 months to refill that fill. So that's why I'm saying if it had to be around 3 gallons, because I'm sure there had to be a little bit of chemical left there. Unless they ran it right out, I don't know, but
It was running out, yeah.
was it?
We used to have it in our well house where we'd smell it and we'd just make a call to order it.
Come and get it.
Yep,
It stinks, come over tonight.
oh, yeah.
Martell remembered it was, the pump was set up for
Bring
4
yours to your
minutes,
eye.
but there's. Based on the type of pump that's out there and the one that he's got in his quote, he said we could go anywhere from like 2 gallons a minute to 10, or 10 gallons per day to 2 gallons per day. They were able to adjust it. But this is what was used before. Apparently it worked and it's the same supplier, same setup.
What was the price back then?
I had that invoice sitting on my desk. I forgot to bring it along.
$2 a gallon.
Yeah.
They have someone else doing it then for a while, or?
No, Martell was still supplying it.
So nobody's maintained this service for 5 years. Surprised we haven't got market plans.
Well, you know, there isn't any, it's a black and white issue whether it's working or not.
Yeah,
And it isn't at Richmond School, it's at Sussex.
yeah.
And we'll get a phone call, I'm sure. Somebody will, Nick will get a phone call saying, what the heck is going on? Fix it.
Mhm.
So it's $50 per delivery. It's a $30 fuel surcharge and a $20 delivery charge.
Correct.
So the 87.45.40, just add another $200 to that, and that's the yearly charge. So you're gonna end up.
Should be it, yep.
Assuming that we don't have to replace that pump, which was $1,300. And we won't know that until we get the system running again. So that's what I was coming up with, roughly 10 grand. And
So do we know that Martell is the only one that's doing this?
That's that's the outfit that supplied the chemical I worked in the past, so that's what I went back to. We could reach out to other companies, come up with something different.
Yeah, I was thinking, why don't we, if this is a quarterly task, why don't we, in the first quarter of 25, find out if there's other suppliers? Before we go ahead and approve a whole year, because. I mean, fiscally, I think we could, if we could save. For 2, 3, and 4 quarters, year quarters. It's worth looking at.
I'm just
Okay.
wondering, I think that I'm all for saving money. But we also have to consider, we have to pay Don to do this and all the work. By the time we get done with him dinking around trying to find other suppliers, is the cost really gonna be? Are we spending $500 to save $100? That's the only concern I have. This stuff is pretty generic. I mean, it's like going to Ace Hardware and getting it. So I don't,
Well, so then why, if it's that easy, why don't we just have our own public works fill it?
because they can't buy it and they're not licensed to sell it, and they're probably not licensed to handle it. These are chemicals. That's why there's a MSDS sheet here that's 5 pages long. I know.
I would agree with that part of it.
I don't wanna
Not
get
running
into,
to
I don't wanna
Walmart
get
and
into
then-
that.
It's not.
Well, he said Ace Hardware and he's.
Well, all I'm saying is,
He's going to get some water softeners,
I wish it was that easy.
Well, you made it sound like it to
Okay,
a,
I
on a foreign
apologize.
person over there.
I'm wrong.
Sorry, it was.
Mr.
Tom,
Chairman,
we gotta run the clock.
Yeah.
Once again, it's the end of the year. Once again, Joe will apologize for
No,
being wrong.
you don't need
All I'm
to.
saying, this stuff is generic enough that whether you call it whatever the heck this stuff is called, there's the stuff that used to be when they first started the pump station, they had this problem, I think was called Biox. And it's like pills you take. I mean, everybody's got a different name. It's the same stuff. It's odor eliminator. I really don't want our public works people to get involved with this because you don't want to, you got enough chemicals you got to deal with in order to get somebody trained and licensed to do all this stuff.
I think handling the pump maintenance and making sure the pump,
Yeah.
you're not gonna want them to go and grab a 500-gallon tote of this from
Ace Hardware.
Janesville or Ace Hardware. That part, the handling, that has to happen through the vendor. But there will or may be pump maintenance or to make sure that there's still product left in the tote. That might be done with.
And what we could do is when, well, should this get approved, Martel comes out to set that up, I could coordinate, come down and Nick could be out there and just to go through it with them and set up what to check, things of that nature. But do we want to just go with one fill to get this going and then in that first quarter, look to see if there's other vendors?
Right, that's what I was thinking is.
Right.
I mean, even if we have to sign quarter by quarter, at least we're doing our due diligence, see if there's. I mean, a lot in this world has changed in 5 years.
If nothing else, just, we should do it just to make sure that the pump will work and then decide from there where
Right.
we're gonna go.
Right.
Does this go up? Does this price go up?
Oh, it always
Well,
does.
chemicals, yeah,
I
that,
mean, can we lock in a price it for the year at least?
Ask Trump.
Any future changes are based on changes of market
I
price.
just hope product
Yeah, I don't
A
think
and
anything's
product
gonna.
B are
I don't think-
compatible with each other.
the way chemicals are nowadays, I mean,
It's the same with your surcharge, your delivery, or your fuel surcharges are all over the board
Yeah.
these days too.
I can ask them. I mean, I can definitely
Well,
ask them.
I guess that's what I was thinking is, do we wanna pay for the? Or can we pay for the 4 upfront?
Like a bulk.
Get a discount.
Well, just know that we're not gonna be paying $6.99 by September.
We certainly got to have the financial resources to do it. Whatever you want, I don't care.
But based on what Mike had sent me in 18, they were paying by the quarter, so they were delivering it in a quarter and they'd invoice after delivery.
And they only may be out there 3 times if they only use 1,500 gallons.
Yeah, I guess if you don't know whether it's 3 gallons a day or 4 gallons a day, maybe first quarter at least, to see how far that stretches.
Right.
Start at 2 and work our way up from there. I have no,
That-
I've not experienced in any of this kind of stuff.
I would agree with that, yeah.
We definitely will have more flow coming from the firehouse than we had
Right.
last year.
That'd be a good idea. Start at 2 and go. That's. Oh, it is a dial on the pump, so it's.
Well, and the other part of it too is there was 2,000 feet of that force main taken off when that subdivision went in, so. That eliminated at least a hunk of that thing sitting there.
Yeah.
was just trying to find on Caris's website if they have a vendor list.
Can also look in Hawkins and see what they. Cause I believe.
I would think they'd have it.
Right.
All right, I guess put the research on the staff side. So does anyone want to make a motion for the first quarter?
Do we want to wait for that letter from the Village of Sussex? That's my only.
It's gonna come.
Well, what was the letter to you from Julie?
It was a phone call. Now I've gotten two of them, she called probably. Right after the week of Thanksgiving,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
just asked
So
where it
you're
was at.
assuming it's gonna be, okay.
well, I think it'd be. I can't imagine she's calling just to tell Don there's a little bit of sewer smell.
Right.
You know,
It's not good.
If you ever experience this stuff,
well, I know, that's what I mean. It's
Yeah.
not like, hey, the wind's blowing this way.
Yes.
no, it's not. It's coming into the plumbing fixtures.
Obviously,
here
if
at
it,
the building.
if it rose to her notification to notify us, I think a letter would just be a formality at this point.
She obviously wants to get back to residents, but I told her at the same time, city politics, I mean, it's gotta go through the proper channels and.
Yeah, I mean,
We had it on the agenda.
I see
wouldn't want that
this.
at my house.
I mean, I'd rather deal with somebody questioning this expenditure than questioning us on why our system smells like.
I'm trying to avoid 5 people showing up here, our homeowners in Redford Hills,
Oh, my God.
sitting in those chairs. Screaming at us in January about why their $1 million house smells like a Metro that's been sitting out in the sun in July. And it's bad. It will bring tears to your eyes.
I would make a motion to. Contact Martel Water Treatment to provide Total Ox odor eliminator. For the first quarter or the first fill for 2025 in the amount of $1,647.25, along with the fuel and delivery charge.
This motion's been made,
I will second it.
second it, discussion.
I think
Think
we
we-
should put down not exceed 1460. Or
Hold on,
the amount that you put down.
I think we need to look at the second page of that quote for like adding install and him coming out.
And to provide the potential service for installation of a chemical feed pump. In the amount of,
It'd be the 195 plus 237.50 plus 135.
not to exceed $1,369.50.
That's got a new pump in there.
I
That's
that
okay.
way. it would
Everything's
cover the
covered,
pump
correct,
if
but I'll
we
tell them we
needed to.
don't, right?
If that existing pump doesn't work, then we'd at least
Right.
have that approval in place
Yeah,
in case we needed it.
so
Perfect.
to clarify your motion is for 275 gallons. At the 1,647.25 plus the 1,369.50 for the items listed on page 2.
Correct.
If
As well
necessary.
as the fuel and
If
delivery.
necessary. Mhm.
as long as the
So the motion's been made. I think I heard a second
Yep,
prior.
second it.
Dan, did the second.
Mhm.
Any other further discussion on that?
Nope.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion 5-0 to the board. Discussion only regarding procedural checklist, draft timeline, and preliminary information for submittal of sewer service area expansion to sewer tax. Don?
All right, the last item in that packet I handed out tonight. Cover this item, So following, Joe Didle's presentation at the last meeting. He had sent an email out to Kathy and I, kind of just following up. And this is a summary of that email, kind of outlining the steps for an amendment to the sewer service area. Basically, there's a letter that's got to come from the Village of Lisbon as well as from the Village of Sussex. Doesn't need to come from anyone other than a person that's kind of in authority of that position, so Judy could make it. It doesn't necessarily have to come from the Village of Sussex president or Village of Lisbon president. But it's got to come from somebody that's got, authority to speak on that item. So there's a letter that's got to come, and then under item number 2, that kind of outlines the remaining things that need to be included as part of that submittal. A map of the sewer service area, which we've already kind of looked at and done, was part of our sewer service area study. Future land uses, which that's where we got to look at Village of Lisbon's comp plan. Make sure it's consistent with your comprehensive plan. We got to look at the flows for the future development, which we've already kind of done as part of the sewer service area already. Got to get into that a little bit more detail for this. We got to look at the point of connection to the existing sewer system, make sure it can take whatever area we're looking to add. Not that we're planning an area in the sewer system downstream can't take it, or the lift stations or wastewater plant can't take it. And then we got to identify the future population. We get all that put together. We submit that to Sewer Pack. They do their initial review, which once we submit it, he figured initial review is a few weeks. Then after that few weeks, if he doesn't come back and say we need additional information or anything, then they would do their draft amendment report. And that's what we get submitted to the village for review. Once they do their draft amendment report, then Joel said he could commit to a timeline, because then you could set dates for public hearings and approval process. I will say the one we did in Kewaskum, which we just did earlier this year, that was started in July of 23, and it was approved and completed in April of 24.
Pretty quick.
I did have a discussion with Joel also, how we would go about either submitting the entire area or submitting just that, let's call it the 150 acres. His feeling was the 150 acres would probably get through, and he was confident saying this, we'll get through with just a simple amendment. If we went the full 750 acres, he felt that would that would utilize a full amendment to be done, which is, that's what they'll look at facility plan updates and everything else with Sussex. I had a discussion with Judy regarding the same thing at Sussex. She was not a fan of a facility plan update at this point in time. She said she's already had a discussion with Joel about that in regards to Menominee Falls. So that was just kind of her standpoint on it. But Joel did feel that 150 would get through with a simple amendment, and then the 750, he wasn't 100% certain without reviewing stuff, but he said he felt pretty confident it would require a full update. Or that would be Sewer Pack's recommendation. Again, we can always go to the DNR and try to override them, but
So none of that would actually, if we went with the amendment, we still would be able to design for the future.
correct. And there's nothing, if we did the 150 acres and we did an amendment, there's nothing keeping the village 2 or 3 years down the road and coming back for another one for that additional area should develop, the development occur or interest occur.
The timeline different for just the 150?
Correct.
But
Much
Normally it's much shorter.
Yeah.
They'll, for like a full amendment, they say 6 to 24 months. For this, just the amendment, the simple amendment, it's more like six to 9 months they look at.
Is there a page 2 from this thing? This letter?
Yeah, you.
I just took the flow chart out of one of Sewer Pack's.
No, I mean this letter.
Yeah, it's 3 pages long, Melinda. I don't know. Mine's 3 pages.
It's just the email that he sent
Yeah.
Kathy and I, and then it's the flow chart.
Okay, didn't get it. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I-
could you please provide us with a very clear copy so I can read all of this?
Yeah, I can't read any of it.
Nothing, yeah.
I have a concern about this. I think we're short cheating ourselves quite a bit. There's areas other than Richmond School that need to be addressed that are gonna be coming before a number of the various committees and village board in relatively quick fashion. And we're talking about Richmond School and that whole area. We're talking about Richmond Road from Redford Hills to the west that are in your study. We're talking about, there's a small area up on Town Line Road that has to be dealt with. Right across the street from Lannon, north of the railroad tracks that we've talked about. There's a whole area from Silver Spring up 164 on the west side, all the way through Plainview Road on the north, and it's coming down the road right now as we talk. It has to do with the reclamation of Genesee Aggregates property. There's two major property owners between the village of Sussex and the north side of Plainview Road that are going to have things done. And if we piecemeal this thing 150 acres at a time, we're not going to get to what we need to have done. Whether we need to have a full-blown, as we talked with Joel Deedle from Sewer Pack last month, we're probably going to end up with a facility plan amendment, a full-blown one. So we need to look at all of these areas, not just little pieces here and there. It's a waste of time and money, and we're never gonna get anywhere.
Is that 745 acres include all of what?
No,
No, it
there's
doesn't
more,
cover
there's a
us.
lot more acreage. There's two major property owners north of Silver Spring on the west side of 164. One of them has already had a sign up for a year and a half. And the next major property owner covers the south side of Plainview and the north side. And if you look on a map, it's a large area. And we don't even know what is going to be going up there until we receive and the village board approves the reclamation plan for that property. And I had a conversation and the reason I did was because I do the yearly inspection for their conditional use for the quarry up there. And I talked to the representative from that property owner, and the village should be receiving something for preliminary discussion, which is gonna involve the plan commission and the village board in the very near future. And it's a large area. And the area south of there, between there and the village limits, which are just north of Silver Spring, is another development that's going to be in there. And there's a pump station everybody knows has to go in there. None of this stuff is going to be approved if we don't have this done. So all I'm saying is, this is a great start, but I think we need to have a discussion at the next meeting about the area we're talking about. And make sure we include all of it.
I agree. I think that's a discussion you guys need to have of what direction you wanna go.
It's gonna require changes to the comp plan for the village of Lisbon. It's gonna involve a lot of things. It's gonna involve the plan commission for a fact, and because we can only do comp plan amendments every so often, and you guys had to deal with that at the board meeting last time. We gotta get our ducks in a row, and we gotta make sure that everybody's on the same plane. And I know that there has been absolutely no discussion at the plan commission about any of this. And they're going to be very interested in this because that's what they do. So, I mean, that's a long-winded statement, but I would like to see Richmond hooked up yesterday, but I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot doing it like this without addressing this whole thing.
Can you do a small one, and while they're in the middle of reviewing it, do a larger one? So if they're 3 or 4 months down, can you submit another?
Joel and I threw around some ideas of how you'd go about, couldn't you submit for the whole 750, but then also in your submittal, throw out the idea of the 150.
As a priority area.
You could. But again, I mean, as they're reviewing it, you don't wanna,
They're not
confuse
gonna
the
like it.
issue and. You know, then they're gonna come back and have comments on the 750 or want a piece for the one, I mean, at some point, it's kind of. Pick what direction you wanna go, and I just didn't know, I know Kathy had brought up in the past about development interest right there.
Do you
Just
know
felt
why
just
Judy is
original.
reluctant to do it, besides it's a lot of work?
She didn't think it was required based on the fact that there's already all the agreements in place. I mean, there's already an agreement and Lisbon's purchase capacity in that sewer already. Sound like just kind of the same deal with Menominee Falls. She had said she already had a discussion with Sewer Pack regarding this and she felt it wasn't time for a facility plan update yet. She didn't think it was required.
Is it possible to have a map to kind of clarify what areas that you're talking to?
I would suggest next month at this meeting, we have up there a large scale map of that. So we can talk about exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
We need to do that and say, we need this area, this area, this area, and this area. So that we all are on the same page and we know what the heck we're talking about. Because that
Pull one
map,
up right now if you want.
I know, but it's,
Yeah.
it's not on the agenda, so. I don't wanna get my hand slapped for that more
Just
than
saying, I
I usually do, but
Can
yeah.
pull it
we
up
need to
anytime
do
we
it.
wanna look.
Something we can see,
Mhm.
and it's that right there.
Cause I'm thinking north of this and south of this, and I'm visualizing everything you're talking
And
about.
I know it's confusing and it's not in one area. It's this and this and that and that.
I mean, I think we really need to know how much we can identify too.
Well,
I mean,
we need to start thinking about it, I believe. Meanwhile, we need to start a discussion. The village does with the property owners up there about what their plan is, and I believe it's going to be presented to this building in the near future. And that's just the start of the discussion. Just because they come in with a reclamation plan that covers, pick a number, 500 acres, doesn't mean that it's gonna be rubber stamped. I mean, it involves, like I said, it involves this committee, it involves the plan commission, it involves the village board at the end. And to a certain extent, it may involve Waukesha County. We're not gonna be short of items to deal with in the next 12 months. But that's what we're here for.
Doesn't the county currently hold their reclamation plans? That just haven't
Right,
been updated?
it is because of when it was done. I mean, it was done back in the 70s and it's not even close to what would happen today. And that's why they were pushed to get that whole thing done, and they realize that because it's closer than it was 30 years ago happening. So I mentioned to the representative of the property up there to have a discussion with you, Dan, in the 10 minutes you have left this week, that you have 1,000 things to do, so that they're on board with you. I said, you're the point person for the village, and you need to have this so we can start working out pieces and parts of this.
Yeah, Kathy gave me a little warning about it, so it's on my to-do list.
Right. This has been in the works for over a year, but as we all know, sometimes property owners don't proceed most really quickly unless they're prodded a little bit. Now they understand the time is here.
All right, I guess take that as a point for the number 9. It's definitely valid even if it's just discussion only. Any more discussion on this, Don?
No, unless there's anything.
Well,
Maybe we don't really have any.
I would like to mention that the next time, we had asked for, and it's in the minutes, Don, that we want to have talked about a draft timeline. but we also requested examples of similar projects and information about who would be in charge of the project on your end. So if you could provide that, it wasn't providing what you gave us tonight.
Okay, I mean, I had mentioned at the previous meeting, Craig Kunkel would be taking care of overseeing this. He was on the last meeting. Heard Joel's, whole spiel, but I can put something together and make
Yeah.
it part of the next.
I want references and I want examples, and I'm not questioning you or the firm, but I want to have this here because we're embarking upon a large project for the village of Lisbon. I just want to have all the ducks lined up.
All right, any more on D? All right, discussion and necessary action regarding proposed Kunkel engineering contract, scope of work, and cost estimate for sewer service area expansion. Don?
I don't know if you guys want to table that until we.
Yeah.
Go through this
Yeah, we
further. I
can't
mean,
deal with it tonight. We didn't even know how big it is.
took a stab at what.
I mean, since it's available for discussion, I did see the page 3 cost of services. 11,750, is that for the 190 or is that for the 745?
Well, I think it would be, what we put together would be for an amendment. If they end up wanting a full update, I mean, then that's gonna depend on what's.
Just for the record, there was a temporary internet outage, which has now been restored. Okay. So obviously what's presented in the packet is just very tentative and it doesn't sound like anyone wants to take any action tonight.
Starting point.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, moving on to 9 items to be placed on future agenda. Recap.
All right, so. All right, I've got the 2025 sewer televising quotes coming back. I've got the traffic and speed policy and procedures coming back, final versions. Flow meter quotes for Business Park East. Checklist timeline, coming back just for discussion. And then scope of work, with the additional information that member Everly requested. So I've got all of those coming back in January. Is there anything that I'm missing?
We have a number, this committee has got a number of things that are missing from the existing sewer ordinance because of the way, what's gonna happen, whether we end up with 150 acres or 1,500 acres. And I think we should put these things on the agenda so we can start working with these things. Things such as we need to have an assessment policy. These are things that have to be done. We can't wait until we get all this facility planning done and say, okay, no, we can't do anything yet because we don't have all this other stuff done. We need to have an assessment policy. We have to deal with deferred assessments. We have to deal with the definition. And this is something that has to go in the zoning code, which is currently being revised, the definition of sewer availability. That's got to be designed. I mean, I just wrote these down because I can't remember anything. We need a hookup deferment policy. We need to have how we're going to deal with existing on-site systems. And we need to deal with, we need to figure out a way, or not a way, but we need to talk about a timeline for having a discussion between the Village of Lisbon and some of these large property owners. That they don't just, we just come up with this facility plan and nobody hears about it until the night of the public hearing. That's the worst thing you could ever possibly ever do. We've got some large property owners that we've been dealing with their property in the last few months. And I don't think they're aware of what's going on. We need to talk to those people. Because if we don't, things are going to blow up and it's to no one's benefit. I mean, eventually we're gonna have to have these things that I just mentioned discussed and policies put together so that we can put together a financing plan, because the first thing somebody's going to ask, and rightfully so, is, okay, you're putting in sewers here and there and everything else. What's this going to cost me? We need to have that taken care of. And these are things that have to occur. They can all be done in 2025, but it's going to take a lot of discussion and talking and decisions made in order for us to get what we have to do. It's more than just drawing a line on a piece of paper. Like I said, I've done this. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I did this for 40 years. I know what's got to get done and the order it's got to get done in there. And we need to get these things discussed and talked about, the options that we have, so that at the end of the day, it can get to the village board with enough information that they can make a decision. And there is probably a dozen things that have to be done. And I think the more of these that we can put on under future agenda, we can start knocking them off, because there's an order in which they have to be done to make sense. And otherwise, we're going to be caught with our shoes on. So that's my 40 minutes of BS, but that's, I know it's got to get done. I know it's going to be required.
How would you like me to put that on the next agenda? Not to be a smart aleck, but
No, I exactly, I
Give me some
realize
direction.
the thing, I think we need to put on the next agenda and we can just start doing these. Number one, the definition of sewer availability. That's a defined term in the state statutes, and it leaves the definition of that term up to the local municipality.
So is
That's
that something we should look at as part of when we go through the sewer code for revisions?
Yes, we should be doing that. The sewer code, from what I understand, I think it possibly came back from the codifiers, but there's things that need to be added in there that we knew were going to happen as a result of these conversations.
So can I make a suggestion that we talk about your priority list at the next meeting? And then from there,
Whatever you guys want to do,
get them
I'm
all
not,
spelled
Let's do
out
it.
so that we know what we
Right.
need to be.
Future
looking at.
priorities?
right, and timelines. I think that's maybe the easiest thing, Elisa, to do this, because otherwise people are gonna, I don't want people to get too excited, but I mean, people occasionally do read agendas for committees, but this is the committee that has to do this. And
What I'm
rightfully so, so we don't end up in the
Got
mess that we were handed. the beginning of this.
Good to go.
Any other committee members?
I just have a question as far as the availability of sewer from Sussex. Is that what you're talking?
No, 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 no. No, I know what you're talking about. There's already, obviously, you all know, we have an intermunicipal agreement with Sussex, which
Yes.
may or may not have to be modified as a result of all we're talking about here tonight.
Yes,
What I'm talking about is the defined sewer availability. I own a piece of property.
right.
It's right here. And sewer is right here. What is the requirement whether or not I have to hook up or not?
Mhm.
That's called sewer availability. It's in the state statute
Mhm.
and it's a thing that's defined by the local municipality.
Mhm.
So you don't end up with the issue like happened beforehand. You do, you don't, you may not have to, and that, you can't do that anymore.
No,
And
I
we
agree.
need to get past that hurdle. That's what that's talking about. If there's a sewer in front of your property, how do you define that and what's the requirements that you have to hook up and the period of time to which you have to hook up?
The board, that was done by the original chairman of the town
Yeah,
board.
it wasn't done by anybody sitting in this room.
No, it was done before the committee. It was
Yeah.
done.
I understand, well, we're better than that.
I can tell you who did it, but.
Well, I don't wanna know. It doesn't make any
No, it
difference.
Doesn't make a difference.
It's
All right,
immaterial.
any other points to add to the future agenda, not discussed tonight?
No, shut up.
Oh, I didn't know that wasn't to.
No,
wasn't
no,
anyone
no, I,
specific.
no, please, I
You
have
have
a,
some good ideas.
I
and
have a
that's why you're
large,
here.
I have a large hunk of weather on my backside. I'm not taking the front by anyone.
All right. And if I got nothing else, I would move for somebody to make a motion of adjournment.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Made by Ms. Beal, seconded by
I'll second.
Jane. Any discussion? All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0,
I got 6:45.
6:45 P.M.
Think the
You
snow
gotta
has
get-
started yet?
No, that's tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay.